say. They clearly met that ability. No way to form that kind of stability. And before you get off on your water drops, you have to know a thing about the ocean's tops. Got they got waves rising and falling, destroying your fallacy about surface tension. In fact, why you would even mention. But gravity, you rush to say, a giant law with a role to play. Substitute of Abrahamic thought, result of adjustment to a dying God. You already have a Babylon 2.0, a fucking update here to run the show. And you don't even want to know. It is the same old glorification of the guy. Roman gods are above, they never die. And the theme's one hell of a genius thought. Gravity is still unproven and a fraud. And look at the theoretical black holes.
Alright, it is February 5th, 2024. Infinite Plane Radio, open phones for open minds. Kind of open for closed minds, in a way. But really just for our purposes of understanding and reverse engineering how people have arrived at their boxed-in conclusions, which refers to anything framed by the world stage. And right now we're talking about a Psyop that's incoming, which is the Taylor Swift Psyop. And I also want to point out, too, that the word Psyop is now mainstream. Last year, it was mind viruses that they mainstreamed. This year, it's Psyop. In 2016, they took over fake news. In other words, this is just another example of the MSM appropriating a word that used to mean something. And now they've taken it out of the realm of fake versus real, and now it's just another way of saying PR stunt. And we're not talking about PR stunts, although that's part of it. The origin of public relations, Edward Bernays, propaganda, and the public mind, that's all at work here. However, we're actually looking at the scripting of history in advance, how the news bending actually works and results in a bent history, like our bent everything, bent horizon, like we've been saying. So in other words, there's a story unfolding having to do with Taylor Swift. The title of tonight's live stream, Taylor Swift Psyop, and the Satanic Grammys. We can't relinquish the term. It's going to get traction. We'll get some traffic for using it, but we have to maintain our definitions. And so when I say something's fake, I don't say it's a false flag, which assumes it's real. I can no longer say Psyop. Hoax doesn't do enough because they project. The ones conducting the hoax call you a hoaxer if you call out the indicators that they're committing a hoax. So I generally say simulated news event or mass casualty simulation presented as real to the news media for the purposes of propaganda. I mean, you have to be specific. So what we're seeing right now, though, is a psyop. Whatever happens isn't something that was scripted. Like, let's just say they decided to do a Princess Diana routine. Some kind of a ritual thing, elevate someone, create an archetype, and then destroy her in some dramatic way. And there have been comparisons of Taylor Swift to Amelia Earhart, which is also very pertinent here, because we're talking about this incoming psyop suggesting, and it's very suggestive here, something about Taylor Swift that connects her with Princess Diana, Amelia Earhart, and the number 13. Just at a minimum, those elements are very suggestive of, I don't know, some kind of tragedy. And then you look at how mad the MAGA ban has been made by her. She's Trader Swift now. She turned her back on the 4chan incels who used to venerate her as the perfect Aryan princess. More evidence to that. Jack Posobiec posted this today. And you may not catch the dog whistle if you don't follow the far-right trolls. With 14 short words, Taylor Swift just taught a brilliant lesson in leadership. So why would Jack Posobiec post something with Taylor Swift in 14 words? Well, as I said, she's their Aryan princess who has turned her back on them. Well, 14 words is actually a reference to the white supremacist slogan about securing the existence of white people for white children in the future. So 14 words. That was chosen specifically as this is a dog whistle. And I'm just pointing it out that these dog whistles mean something because they do communicate messaging. Which is why you have a bunch of MAGAs with shotguns going towards the border to fight the aliens. All right, we'll go ahead and continue to talk about this. Again, the Taylor Swift psyop incoming and more clues. Because, some people say you read too much into things. For example, the blind skeptic on Twitter says, you're reading too much into this. And I can understand saying you're reading too much into it. But there are just too many anomalies here, and we've been vindicated too many times. So yeah, you can read into this thing endlessly. It's that deep. It's not like we're misled, and this is not cognitive bias. We're not cherry picking. And even if we were, we wouldn't be right so often. And you'll see the metascripted view is conveying something. And we don't have long to wait. We're just 6 days away from the first full day of the Year of the Dragon, Super Bowl Sunday. Now check this out really quick, a side note. Truth Social was launched February 21st, 2022. 777 days later will be the Great Solar Eclipse of 4/8. Probably not a coincidence. This is just another element to the bigger picture that we've been finding, because we know it's about timing. We know astrological timings are precisely implemented with all of these major league psyops. 9/11 starts at 8:46 a.m., Mercury's rising, and we find these precise timings, and if you think about it, it makes perfect sense that they would have events split apart by a certain number of days. And we've been finding this, like in fact, Astro World, 666 days later, you had the event at the Burning Man, where everybody got stuck in the mud. We've been finding all these fascinating connections, but this is just another one. So are we reading too much into it? And I want to make a prediction right off the bat. Psyop will be 2024's word of the year. I think 2022 was gaslight. Maybe that was last year. But the word of the year, let me see. Because gaslighting wasn't something that was commonly understood outside of the, I guess, area of therapy and psychological abuse. But yeah, Merriam-Webster, America's oldest dictionary publisher, chose gaslighting as the word of the year, and this is based on people searching for it. Gaslighting is the act or practice of grossly misleading someone for one's own advantage. Basically, the mainstream media's standard operating procedure. They're basically gaslighting you 24/7, saying, believe this, not your senses. Trust us. Your perceptions are secondary to what you get through the screen. So gaslighting was 2022, but yeah, this year I think it's going to be Psyop. Okay, so continue. We have a ton of new information along these lines. So let's just start with, and should we take bets? Are we going to take bets? And maybe we should actually have a betting pool for Super Bowl Sunday, not on who's going to win the Super Bowl, but on what's going to happen with this event. Snipers, nukes, blackouts in Vegas, all these things have been forecast. In fact, we'll go through all of them. And something else, too, that came up very interesting. Someone in the chat had pointed out the potential symbolism between the 49ers and the Chiefs. And if you remember last year, we had this drama about this kid wearing a Kansas City Chiefs outfit and doing the tomahawk chop, and they said it was racist. Well, that had a direct tie-in to Leave the World Behind, where you even have a scene on the wall where someone's doing the chop. Not a coincidence. This is an Obama-era psyop that came back right after the movie was released. But listen to this. The enslaved Native Americans who made the gold rush possible. The native Californians were treated abominably in the area where gold was first discovered. In other words, 49ers, Chiefs, again, kid with the Chief headdress, the chop is racist, it says here, young Chiefs fan, his dad respond. So there's something up with that. And this is all very consistent anyway with the bigger narrative, as we'll see. The division, left, right, black, and white, the toxic femininity versus toxic masculinity. And then we have the connection between Super Bowl 47, the Blackout Bowl, and the one that's coming up right now. Now, this is something that came from the Department of Defense. The Pentagon actually stepped out in front of this thing. The Department of Defense says Taylor Swift is not an asset to the Pentagon. Thank you, DoD. They confirmed Taylor Swift is not a Pentagon asset, and Travis Kelce probably isn't either. Probably isn't either. A spokesperson for the DoD has clapped back at right-wing conspiracy theorists. Now, you'll notice only right-wingers are conspiracy theorists. That's like the default. And that's because if you're not mainstream, you're a conspiracy theorist. You see how that works? And we're not conspiracy theorists, by the way, if you're listening, Infinite Plane Radio. We're just simply people who have been mentally inoculated against the mind war, which makes us skeptics and somewhat objectivists in a sense. Okay, let's continue. Again, spokesperson for the DoD had to go out and say that this is not a psychological operation being carried out by the Pentagon. He said they anticipate Swift will be on the field during the Super Bowl halftime show to endorse Biden. This is what Ramaswamy said. He said, I wonder who's going to win the Super Bowl next month. And see, they're saying it's rigged. So there's this theme, rigged election, rigged Super Bowl. And this is interesting too because I've been saying that the Super Bowl 47 blackout bowl would be correlating to the election of the 47th president. So former candidate Ramaswamy then piled on, posting to X, I wonder who's going to win the Super Bowl next month, and I wonder if there's a major presidential endorsement coming from an artificially, culturally propped up couple this fall. Well, there you go. And I've been listening to left-wing podcasts talking about all these Taylor Swift conspiracy theories like it's just crazy. And is it crazy? I don't think so. She just had her 13th Grammy. When she goes to the Super Bowl, it'll be her 13th game side appearance after her 13-hour flight from Japan. But yeah, you had the DoD Deputy Press Secretary coming out on Friday just saying, no, this is not a Pentagon Psyop. Taylor Swift is not an asset. She's not part of a DoD psychological operation, period. So again, the term Psyop, psychological operation, is now mainstream. This is the second time the Pentagon has shut down rumors. Now, why would they even address this? This is a good question, if you ask me, because they're trying to set something up. They're trying to set something up for this race traitor, which is what they call them in Turner Diaries. And right now it's Turning Point USA is basically bringing the Turner Diaries to life. And anyone who betrays the movement, and this would be the 4chan incels, the first people they take out are the traitors. So I'm saying Traitor Swift would be targeted by extreme MAGA incel types. We're talking MAGA van extremists. And it's very consistent and on brand with what they've been saying recently. And you can see with Jack Posobiec hyping up, quote, White History Month and appropriating Taylor Swift as their representative. And again, this is the guy who kicked off Pizzagate. So when he's throwing these memes to his millions of followers, this isn't just some random S poster. You know, this is a provocateur setting a stage so that when somebody beheads an FBI agent and says it's because of open borders and Joe Biden, it makes perfect sense. Nobody questions it. Like, oh yeah, MAGAs are chopping off heads now. I'm surprised it didn't start sooner. Which is generally what I hear from people. Oh, they just finally got around to that. Like, they don't even think it's surprising when they hear that a MAGA is chopping off heads because of Democrat policies. All right, this is Infinite Plane Radio for 2/5/2024. Let's see who's joined us tonight. I try to start sooner, but we're going to be spending more and more time on this as things move forward. I spent a lot of time engaging in basically legal research. I have to prepare my response to the initial motion that Google's going to file. I have a meeting tomorrow with their attorneys. We're going to have a short conversation. But our first pre-trial hearing is going to be in May. But we're having a phone conversation that we have to before they file their motion. Anyway, it just means that I'll have more information moving forward. And we've been through this several times. And this time, we're in the right jurisdiction, which is the only reason last time that it wasn't heard. In fact, the judge said, well, maybe I will hear it. What's your best argument for allowing this court to oversee this? And I said, well, Google YouTube is a commons. It's a global commons. It's ubiquitous. It doesn't have to be in one county in California. So that was my basis for suggesting you should be able to sue them from anywhere, considering they operate everywhere. But that's not how it works. All right, joined by Copacetic, Thirst for Truth, Diana South, Elephant Tusks, Dua Sempera, Reverse History, P. Trippa, Nicotramus, Landorock, Zinvalis, Into the Beyond says Raft Time. Elephant Tusk says, I think I figured out the end game. It involves nanotechnology in our food, hence all those food factories catching fire. They're going to use Starlink as well. So they're just going to like incinerate us all? That we're now just one flip of a switch away from some kind of mass immolation? Joined by Ears Up, Gematria 101. P. Trippa says, where is Starlink? Starlink, in my opinion, Starlink is Loon LLC. Loon X. Look up Loon X. I think Loon X was appropriated by SpaceX and then rebranded as Starlink orbiting satellites when it's really just a bunch of balloons. And I've seen them. I've actually seen them twice. And the Google Loon project, Loon X, only failed because it wasn't economically viable at that time, so they say. It's like you're telling me that you can just have some balloons up there on a circuit above the weather, delivering consistent internet coverage anywhere in the world, and you're just going to shut it off? But then immediately after, Starlink satellites magically appear. So you get these gloobers and like, well, how do you explain this? And they put their Starlink satellite out. Because I have this satellite dish, therefore, the Earth is a ball, and I'm getting my signal with the help of some orbiting infrastructure. Like, no, I don't think so. It's more likely that they're dangling than orbiting. Into the Beyond says it's obvious that the Chiefs are going to win. The NFL is scripted. Well, I think there's something else with the Chiefs as well, and we'll get into this. It's deep in the symbolism, but the Chiefs, the arrow, the reference to the broken arrow, a loose nuke. And then I also found something else. I was reviewing Leave the World Behind today, and there's a clip at the very beginning where a girl in a blue swimsuit with blonde hair named Taylor drops a pin right before the big boat crashes the beach, meaning she tagged her geolocation or something. So I'm thinking, wait a minute. Taylor out in the ocean, there's a ping, the boat's coming in, and they don't know it yet, but this is when the planes are all falling. And you'll see where we're going with this. Duas Impera says, wasn't 14 painted on a fake gun at a fake shooting somewhere? Yes, that would be Christchurch. Shout out to PewDiePie. He had the 14. And yeah, that was a dog whistle from Jack Posobiec. I mean, think about it. Just how terrible of a concept it is. This is a guy associated with Charlie Kirk who says we need to do away with the Civil Rights Acts. So they want to really go MAGA, like make America great again, like before the Civil Rights, I guess. They have this idealized past. Their idea of MAGA is like pre-late 60s America. And for them to throw out terms like that, like neo-Nazi jargon slang, these are inside jokes. So, I don't know the purpose of it other than branding the right wing as a bunch of nutcases who have tendencies to act out in crazy ways, like chopping off heads and having kind of these fatwas issued against celebrities like Taylor Swift and Tom Hanks. And how many other celebrities have the QAnoners been bloodlusting for? Okay, continuing. Demetria 101 says 888 times 2 is 1776. Yes, it is. And 1776, that's the height in feet of the One World Trade Tower. And in the Masonic calendar, beginning with the Year of Light, 1776 marks the beginning of the construction of the Tower of Babel. So you have an interesting connection between the Tower of Babel and the One World Tower. Also, the 888 in Christian Gematria is Christ. So this is also code for Second Coming. The 1776 number is intriguing. And then it's in the movie Leave the World Behind, it's all about 1776 versus 1619. Plain decoded says, are they timed on Earth to the astrology, or is the astrology controlling the timing? I would say that they are timing their events on the Earth to correspond with what's above. The witches' sabbats, the 8 different points of the year where they pay attention to the sun and they personify it. Like right now, we're living in I guess right now the Super Bowl, but we're at the point of the year where the sun god who was born on Christmas is being weaned. And so right now it's about milk. It's about the weaning of the sun god. But you see the symbolism, and it's in bulk or candle mass. And the Super Bowl ceremony is basically where they celebrate this thing. So what I'm pointing out here is that a lot of the world stage drama is timed on their astrotheological cult's calendar. J.P. Morgan said millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. Yeah, they absolutely do. And then higher up, it's like you could say the billionaires are coordinated with astrotheology. It's beyond just astrology. They're actively doing some kind of hermetic thing, that as above, so below. And there's an explanation for it, which I think gets into the theory of magic itself and what they believe they're doing. Imitative magic, sympathetic magic, hermetic magic. And that's a topic for another night, possibly. However, we are talking about these psychological operations, which I contend are also rituals. And so we have to look into the symbolism. What does it mean that Taylor Swift is consistently associated with the number 13, a goddess number, for example? Or that she gets her Grammy at 33, and at the same time, says last year, Beyonce gets her 33rd Grammy. And now this year, Taylor gets her 13th, and Beyonce gets snubbed, according to Jay-Z, kind of doing a Kanye, suggesting that Swift got something that belonged to Beyonce. And that's interesting considering that Beyonce was performing during the Blackout Bowl, and this next Super Bowl seems to be connected to that one. Oswaldo says, oh great, they fake newsed the word Psyop. Absolutely. They took the word Psyop away from us. They can't take auto hoax. That's why we had to jump on this one. We had to just say, hey, look, it's a pejorative. It's a way of red pill propaganda mules to attack the people who go too far. Oh, you guys are saying it's a hoax too fast. You don't have any faith in media? No, absolutely not. Not even a little bit. Not even the benefit of the doubt. You see, the truthers look at things wrong. They look at it as what's coming up next on the screen is either real or it's a false flag, meaning it's real, but somebody else did it, or there's another explanation. But they never question the essential reality of it. That's your basic truther outlook. And to me, the fact of it is, this real skepticism would begin with questioning the essential story itself and eliminating what you can't verify. And look, they're news media. They're supposed to present facts. If they can't, it's because they don't have them. And there's a different worldview, which is your concept of the world, but you have a different worldview depending on how you view the media or the mediated version of reality. Do you buy into the normie view, or the woke view, or the red pill, nightmarish view? I mean, I follow people on Twitter who are terrified of what they believe to be toxic, poisonous clouds being, quote, sprayed out of airplanes. So they see the skies as ugly, tarnished, poisoned, and deadly. And all they can do is just shake their fists at the sky. And I'm like, bro, just mask up. Just put on a mask at a minimum. Protect yourself. Protect your children. But they go out there every day and they take pictures of the sky. They're terrified. And you know what? Psychosomatically, maybe they are actually suffering chemtrail lung. Like chemtrail phobic or sky phobics. People who get themselves convinced that these trails of ice in the sky are somehow deadly. I mean, look, you could bottle it. If you bottled a chemtrail, it's just water. But they could easily give themselves chemtrail lung just from being so focused on this supposed toxic and no one believes in it. I think it could happen. Chemtrail lung, I've even suggested that anti-vaxxers might actually be responsible for all of the suddenly died types. The people just drop dead. It's like, well, maybe they just kind of caught the fear virus. I mean, psychosomatics is real. Maybe constantly expressing every paranoid delusion and fear, it does have a toxic effect on the people around. Jake the A-hole says 49ers will most likely win. Public money is on the Chiefs. Hint, hint. Okay. And I'm interested in Jake the A-hole's actual opinion on the Taylor Swift psyop. And I was ignoring it and ignoring it until I saw that it was encoded in all the same way as the previous ones. Okay, continuing. Hero Paranormal says, Chiefs for the political Psyop win. Well, we've seen this before. Whether or not you are able to believe that the sports are scripted and fake, because, the athletics are real, but isn't as contrived as WWE. Whether you believe it or not, we can find instances where it does seem like the NFL has been hijacked for propaganda purposes, like the Patriots and the Jets after 9/11, America needs a win, that kind of stuff. New York Jets, Patriots, obvious 9/11 connotations. All right, continuing. Joined by Salty Siren says Christ is X. Yeah, I was looking into a lot of the X, the etymology, the origin of the letter X, and other symbolism related. And look, I happen to think that the mass media is itself, in its entirety, the new Bible. It's like the new living Bible. And just as the history is like kind of like an Old Testament, tells the story of how we got here, and this is the one that's hasn't quite been fulfilled yet. That's why we have all these doomsday prophecies. But I do think that the symbolism of X has everything to do with Constantine consolidating the empire under the sign of the X. And remember, Constantine had a vision of a glowing cross. Elon Musk put a glowing cross, the big X, on his building. And, even if you look at the Twitter bird and look at the dove and the cross associated with early Christianity, I think we're just seeing a reboot of really the old Mystery Babylon religion, but it's all dressed up as science fiction. But everything, all the old symbols have been appropriated. That's why you have Noah, like Noah, the flood, and the ark. Well, you have the new Noah, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, who have Ark Storm they're warning us about. And they don't even explicitly say, yeah, we're connected to NASA, but we're stealing stories from the Bible. Their symbol's even a dove. Think about it. Noah, dove, global warming, flood. They just basically have taken everything from the old paradigm and they've rebooted it. And what I'm saying is that they're doing the same thing with the media. Right now they're at the phase where they have to consolidate it and get rid of all of the non-canonical texts, the Apocrypha. In other words, they are consolidating the new Bible, which is the version of reality, the approved version by the empire, that you get, that you download into your mind every day. But they're not quite there yet. They have to still get rid of the conspiracy theorists, but they're getting there. And I think Elon Musk is a huge part of this mass media consolidation process, because ultimately it's about worldview control. Okay, moving on. Hero Paranormal says King Charles supposedly has cancer according to MSM. I saw that. And again, I don't take anything at face value. Obviously, there's some kind of deeper symbolism built into that. In fact, someone was posting, and I probably have it, a video of the Verger, I think that's what he's called, at the coronation ceremony. There was like the Grim Reaper ran behind King Charles. And apparently it's some part of the clergy, but he happened to be dressed like the Grim Reaper. Okay, moving on. I'm just scrolling through your comments. Okay, Jake the A-hole says, Taylor is being used as a tool to get more eyeballs on the NFL. People who think the NFL is scripted are betting mostly on the Chiefs to win. They think it's rigged for Swift. It's a betting trap. Fascinating. Okay, well, let's continue talking about the Taylor Swift Psyop that the Pentagon says is not a Psyop. And again, why would they come out and say it's not a Psyop? Now listen to this. Lex 18 News. In the 1930s, Amelia Earhart was an icon, a record-breaking aviator and author as famous as Taylor Swift. So ask yourself, why are they suddenly comparing Taylor Swift to a dead woman? And they just found her plane at the bottom of the ocean. And weirdly, Taylor Swift's going to take a 13-hour flight to her 13th appearance at the site of the game. And she's flying in from Japan, which has kind of a connection to the death of Earhart, if you believe that maybe she was executed by the Japanese. But this also ties in to the Woman of the Year Times magazine cover where she looks like Amelia Earhart. So there's something here that's building. In fact, here's the thing I mentioned about the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper at the King Charles coronation revealed Westminster Abbey were approached about who the figure was, and it seems it's the regular verger going about their business. It's a member of the Abbey community who helps with religious services without actually being a member of the clergy. Okay, so if you remember this, last year you had this, or during the coronation, yeah, you had the Grim Reaper walk in behind King Charles. Like, what is that?
Cameras to be focusing on.
Right there, it certainly looks Grim Reaper-ish with a scythe. Could be a little foreshadowing. All right, moving on. There's quite a lot today, and again, this is an example of how angry the quote alt-right are, the incels, that their princess has betrayed them. And again, they called her Princess Tay-Tay, which I think is maybe another connection to this Princess Diana connection that has been made to her. He says, this is from Screwpulus. I wonder if Taylor Swift understands that if she goes along with the plan, she will ultimately be charged with treason, all because her father hates 45. So 45 is a reference to Donald Trump. But if she endorses Biden, she is therefore guilty of treason. Okay, Jake the A-hole says, I think the 49ers win and Vegas pockets the Chiefs' money. 49ers fans stay and party in Vegas and give back whatever they win on the game. It's all about money all the time. Swift will wear red. Chiefs, red. Swift's new album is called Red. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. What was the main color last year during the Super Bowl? Well, you had Rihanna in a red suit, head to toe, pregnant belly, and she was surrounded by white dancers. And the red is a reference to the Whore of Babylon. You had the Doja Cat in a red dress. And later, like 6 months later, Doja Cat releases the album Scarlet. Scarlet Woman. This is right, along the lines of Barbie and the Whore of Babylon connection. So this is another indicator that the Whore of Barbie Land, the goddess archetype is definitely what they're bringing out here with Taylor Swift. She's basically embodying the same thing. Only she's not performing at the Super Bowl, but she's showing up in red. So she fits the requirements of being the avatar for the goddess that the occult religion worships, which is what they did last year. I called it the Mystery Babylon Fertility Rite, which is what it's likely going to be this year. Many predict Travis will propose after the Chiefs win, so I predict that won't happen. Oh, it was her 2012 album Red, said Elephant Tusks. Okay, I'm glad you had your collection of CDs there. I got this 4-hour greatest hits of Taylor Swift to listen to, and I didn't get through it. But I was just trying to see if I was missing anything. And there's something going on here. She has been propped up artificially. There's no doubt about that. And you can see it all in the numbers. But no, about her new album, or her album being red, that is an important association, especially if she's going to be specifically wearing red. Thirst says, check out a magazine stand right now. She's on multiple covers. Yeah, so they're putting the face out there all over the place. That's why I mean, when we look at media, we have to look at it not as news media, entertainment, celebrity stuff, but we have to look at it monolithically as one presence in your life. It's your mental environment being saturated from all different types of platforms and directions at all times. And again, the whole point of it is the power elite have written our history already. There's no reason to overreact to anything since it's already been scripted. If you're reacting surprised, it's because you don't know how. I mean, spoiler alert, everything's fake in a sense. Everything's contrived. There are real things with real people, but it's like a reality TV show. That's how real it is. So yeah, it's real, in a sense. If she makes it to the game at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas on February 11th, it will be the 13th time she has rooted for the Chiefs and Kelsey in person. And again, for years, she has had the number 13 written on her hand. We've discussed this at length. And now check this out. So while she was getting her 13th Grammy, she announced that she has her 11th album. And on the interior art, she has this little bit of poetry. I think it's called the Tortured Poets Society. But she says, "The tick tick of a love bomb, my veins of pitch black ink." So let's take this apart really quick. Here she is on the announcing her new album. We got the 13 encoded into this thing because, of course, it's her 13th Grammy. And she announces her 11th album. She's wearing a doomsday clock around her neck at the Grammys. Why is she wearing a doomsday clock? And then the inside of the album, it says tick-tock of a bomb. This is a bomb reference. Love bombs, which may even tie in to Barbieheimer. The love bomb thing, the connection between the bomb and Barbie and the bombshell. It's packed into this. However, veins of pitch black, EMP, blackout, leave the world behind, all in here. And again, broken arrow is code for a lost nuke, and there's been 32 of these things. So I'm thinking, are we awaiting a 33rd Broken Arrow event? I think so. Again, 33 minutes of darkness at Super Bowl 47 with Beyonce performing, and now this is the Taylor Swift Bowl. And there's been this Beyonce Swift thing with these award shows twice now. Once with Ye calling out the snubbing of Beyonce, and once again here with Jay-Z calling it out. Now here's a cover of Time Magazine Person of the Year. So I did a little research on Artemis, who is, of course, the Roman equivalent of Diana. And she's already been compared to Princess Diana, who rammed the car into the 13th pillar. And last year we'd made the connections between the cracked pillar and the Artemis rocket, which couldn't launch because it was cracked. Well, the Artemis rocket was about to launch at the same time that Princess Diana had a bunch of coverage in the news. They were doing all kinds of stories on her. Well, Artemis is the twin of Apollo, by the way. There's an important link here. But anyway, she's the goddess of the hunt, of sudden death, and virginity. Just different connections here, but I thought that's interesting. Sudden death. Last year it was died suddenly. Sonar imagery may have located Amelia Earhart's long lost. And even here, CNN, it says, Earhart was a rock star of the era, the Taylor Swift of the era. And some believe she died in Japan. 13-hour flight from Japan coming up. And there's some stories saying that she's related to the Earharts as well. From Politico.com, Pentagon to MAGA world, you need to calm down over Taylor Swift. National security officials are used to shaking off absurd conspiracy theories, but the latest rumor that's gripped MAGA world just hits different. The claims by Fox News and far-right influencers is that Taylor Swift is part of a Pentagon psychological operation to get Joe Biden reelected to rig the Super Bowl to benefit the Chiefs and her boyfriend. And this has been met with forehead slaps in the national security world. They say, we know too well, now this is the point of it, the dangers of conspiracy theories. So to set the record straight, Taylor Swift is not part of a DoD Psyop, period. What are the dangers? Well, let me think. We just had a guy chop off the head of an FBI agent because of Joe Biden's open borders, calling for just murdering all the opposition. Well, here you have Taylor Swift, a race traitor to the incel 4chan right-wing MAGA ban. So there's something to that. Like, in other words, there's a target on her back in this sense. If you just accept, if you recognize how just crazy these individuals have been portrayed. Jay-Z pulls a Kanye, complains about Beyonce never winning. Beyonce has won the most Grammys in history, but has never taken home Album of the Year. Again, how many? 33. And that was last year. Next to Swift, who received one at 33. These connections are not insignificant, and it all ties to the 33 minutes of darkness. One meaning of the number is order out of chaos. It's an operation, a psyop. They're going to break something, everybody's going to react, and then they're going to offer a solution to fix it. Or in this case, they're going to do a dirty bomb, some kind of a blackout, or some kind of atrocity event at the Super Bowl. At least according to the predictive programming here, which is a predictive model. This is from Jacob Israel 71 on Twitter. Taylor Swift wins Best Pop Vocal Album. Reminds everyone it's her 13th Grammy. Her Super Bowl appearance will be her 13th game. 13 is her favorite number. And her necklace on the red carpet mirrors the doomsday clock, 1 minute to midnight. 6 nominations at the 66th Grammy. So you got a bunch of 666s and 33s. What's going on? Synchromorpheus pointed out Beyonce's daughter wears a white princess dress at the Grammys, and her father accepts the Global Impact Award. Blue Ivy Carter dressed like music royalty in a white princess dress at 2024 Grammys. Again, black white is all code, and the order out of chaos references this. It's the dialectics they control, and so we're looking at some kind of incoming psyop. Interestingly, Beyonce shows up wearing a white hat, a white cowboy hat. Not sure what that means yet, but there's a lot of stuff going on at the border. And if you remember, Musk shows up at the border with a black cowboy hat. Something's up with the border right now anyway. Okay, continuing. This is from Brett the Breton on Twitter. Purple means royalty. Taylor Swift is reflecting the Whore of Babylon, Revelation 17:4. The woman arrayed in purple and scarlet, gilded with gold and precious stones, and a cup in her hand. We'll go into that, but there's some, again, the doomsday clock. That's a big one. The numbers are being promoted by a lot of like really big influencers. Like this is kind of like Leave the World Behind, and kind of like that thing in the Atlantic with the $47 in the bullet hole. Some of this predictive programming is almost seemingly designed on purpose to be noticed by the most number of people. This is something else. There's a movie called Amsterdam, and in this, Taylor Swift has a 10-minute part, so it's a little more than a cameo. But look at this. Swifties worldwide are shelling out hundreds of dollars to sit within hundreds of yards of her, dressed up in her 1930s period garb. Now, her character dies and is offed 13 minutes into the movie by vehicular homicide. So if you haven't seen it, it's called Amsterdam. And if you search Amsterdam Taylor Swift, basically, yeah, she's dressed up in some kind of 1930s period garb costume and gets thrown under a car and just dies just that quick. So the dying in the car, very Princess Diana-esque. Okay, so her album is called This is new. It's called The Tortured Poets Department. It comes out on 4/19. Anything significant there? I'm surprised they didn't just push it to Hitler's birthday. But this is where I found that little clip here where it says the tick-tock of the bomb and the pitch black. Interesting references. All right, let me see if I've missed anything in the comments section. Oh, Salty Siren says, look at the woman in the red dress. You know what's interesting about that? In the Matrix, you have the distraction with the red dress. Looks kind of Taylor Swift-esque. But Jack Posobiec had said, pay no attention to the woman in the red dress. He made that comparison as well. Look, I think a lot of these propaganda spewers are given talking points, and they may not know the entirety of what they're saying or its meaning in the fullest context. Plain Decoded says, I agree with Jake. The astrology is pointing to an underdog win, and even if those 49ers are faves in the books, the public favors the Chiefs. Okay, moving on. Skyfish says they're putting his face out there along with his Adam's apple. Elephant Tusk says, Tim, have you seen all the R's walking around with the Apple Vision Pro? Feels like an episode of Black Mirror. Yeah, people drive with those things on. But, you don't even... I mean, those things are obviously one step deeper into the metaverse. But we're already there. Our realities are augmented by superstitions, by psychological operations, by lies, and our frame of reference is already pretty much a simulation. And anywhere the simulation doesn't match reality, you're not supposed to call it out because you're a conspiracy theorist. But what they're trying to do, I think, is immerse people even deeper. They want more of your lived experience to be processed through the screen. And it helps with the psyops. I mean, think about how on 10/6, Modern Warfare 3, an interesting name. I mean, Modern Warfare is what we're talking about, Mind War. But Modern Warfare 3 is released on 10/6/2023. 10/7, we have the Israel-Gaza event. So tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people are plugged into a simulation war game just as this happens on the news. And as with Ukraine, most, if not all of the footage that was promulgated for the first week came right out of video games. Everything was being debunked. You couldn't find anything reliable. But what they do is they drag people into the movie. They blur the fiction and reality to the point where it's just kind of, it's the fog of Psywar. And right now it seems like people are being dragged into it more and more, and that's why all these augmentations, Neuralink, it's all being implemented. It's like a drug. In many ways, I would say that the mass media and the massified mind itself, it's the result of a psychedelic media environment. No need for acid. Duist in Paris says Richie from Boston's down there biking at the border. Oh, that's good. That's good. He's got to fight that chemtrail lung. Get some cardio. And he ought to warn them, hey, you guys don't want to come into America. There's chemtrails here. Go back to wherever you came from where the skies are still blue. Like, why would they want to come to America? Okay, continuing. Elephant Tusk says, perhaps this is all a distraction, Tim, for something else. All eyes in the Super Bowl when something happens somewhere else. Yeah, it's one of two things. It's either a distraction, like you said, misdirection, or they need everyone looking at the same screen so they can, at the same time, synchronize all of our minds. And I do think there's something up here that correlates with the Super Bowl number 47. I have a few ideas. And the Taylor Swift thing is new. I thought they're either going to nuke the Death Star, which is what they call this thing, or they're going to do the Trump Antichrist head wound thing, which is a thing. I mean, like it or not, we're just reading the scripts with a full understanding of how it works in terms of the news bending process. We understand the nature of it. Like, for example, when I see something happening on Netflix and something happening in the news at the same time, well, I know that's not possible if these things aren't connected, because Netflix can't possibly predict the news. But then you realize how integrated it is. And so when you look at it from that perspective, you can just look back at the predictive programming as a predictive model. So we have a pretty good idea of what's coming. The question is it going to be literal? Is it going to be psychological? Like, are they going to psychologically nuke our minds, blow our minds? Is it going to be like a dramatic mushroom cloud event, perhaps filmed by Christopher Nolan? And I don't think that's off the table. I really don't. Look back 2012, Dark Knight Rises, you have some foreshadowing where he throws the COVID ball looking smoke bomb and it creates a mushroom cloud. But he counts to 5 first. And he says, put on a mask. It's not for you, but it's to protect the people that you love. Like, he quotes Fauci out of the future, this Batman. He throws the spiky ball and it creates a mushroom cloud. This is in 2012. This is a decade before Christopher Nolan makes Oppenheimer. Like, was that even in discussion at the time? I don't think so. So it's almost like foreshadowing his own movie production. But my point of it is, Christopher Nolan is widely considered among Metascript analysts to be the Stanley Kubrick of our era. And if anybody's going to carry out Stanley Kubrick's master vision for this eventual, whatever it's going to be probably Christopher Nolan. Likely James Cameron would be involved as well. But I mean, both of them are known for these simulated nukes, and everything's simulation. And I think what they had to do first, obviously, is get this in our minds. We had the East Palestine detonation, the toxic airborne event, white noise. We have now the Oppenheimer, which was, this is all stuff that they're putting into our collective psyche in our frame of reference so that it's believable by the most number of people. So the reason why the Super Bowl would be such a perfect opportunity for an event is that you have everyone's attention fixated. And if everybody's watching and everybody's fixated, they can change reality. It's a true reset button. Look, if we all overslept on 9/11, 2001, if we all overslept and didn't really catch the news until the afternoon, it would have blunted the impact. And in today's attention economy, it's very difficult to get everybody to look at the same thing for any length of time. That's why serial killers aren't really a thing anymore. No, they had to go with mass shooters. We don't have the attention span as a society for a sustained terror operation like a Ted Bundy. They got to do it all at once. Okay, so Earhart's been found. Now this is interesting. Again, we're talking about symbolism and archetypes. Again, is this Taylor Swift or Zena LaVey? Or Taylor LaVey? Why does Taylor Swift have a striking resemblance to, I think, one of the first child baptisms that the Church of Satan ever conducted with her pink Baphomet? And many of Taylor Swift's photos almost seem like they're purposefully stylized to look like her. We've seen the same phenomenon with Princess Diana. And this has been an observation made as far back as 2016. Again, you could say it's a coincidence, but again, this is something I brought up yesterday, but it's worth repeating. This is from Advancing Physics. This is from 2002. The Con Artist Physics of Ocean 11. So Ocean 11 is a movie that takes place in Las Vegas. It's a con artist caper. But in the film, 11 con artists employ a physics device called the pinch to rob a vault containing the riches of 3 casinos. Set off in the middle of Las Vegas, the pinch detonates an intense EMP. So an electromagnetic pulse blacks out the power grid. So that's a power out reference that, again, these things are building up. And, I was listening to Ann Coulter today. Again, I study all the different fringes. And she keeps on saying she hopes Trump dies. Like, here she is tweeting about it. What could Trump do, Ann Coulter, to help take America back? He could die. But she's constantly saying this. It's interesting because she's one of these never Trumpers. And I know she's, quote, joking, I guess. I don't think she is. But there's a political will for such a thing. Again, Fallout Vegas, we talked about this. Fallout Vegas, predictive programming. Fallout would be obviously high altitude nuke possibly, which would be easier to fake. It would create the blackout and it would require lockdowns. Like that could happen. All right. This is Alex Jones. Now, I'm only pointing this out because I've been calling Bill Hicks for a few weeks now. And now here he is saying, I'm not Bill Hicks. Why is he coming out and saying this at this time?
Here today for everybody. I'm not Bill Hicks, the comedian that died in 1993. That's been said everywhere. It's been in Rolling Stone magazine. It's been in the New York Times. I'm not Bill Hicks, but I am a clone of Adolf Hitler. It's true, folks. I am Adolf Hitler. The truth is out. It's been exposed. They've done the face scans. I am Adolf Alois Hitler. I'm a clone of Hitler.
Okay, so he's a clone of Hitler. He's not Bill Hicks. Just putting it out there. Like the other day I said that the psychological operations are the rule, not the exception. And I hear the same thing coming out of InfoWars. Surely it's not a coincidence. But again, Psyop will probably be 2024's word of the year. That's kind of how things are going. Let's see what else. Things have not aged well for East Palestine. Lingering effects of toxic train derailment, which was, again, last year. So, the Super Bowl thing, and bringing up what the commenter said about distraction. Like, what if we're watching the Super Bowl, and Gaza gets nuked. And I'm saying this because last year we had the toxic airborne event following the White Noise movie. And again, blackout, white noise, there may be something to this. So, White Noise takes place in Ohio. And many of the extras who are in this movie about a train derailment and a toxic airborne event and a big mushroom cloud, many of these extras had to evacuate East Palestine when it happened for real right after the Netflix movie. And I say real in quotes, happened in the reality TV sense, but, the truthers all believe it, the mainstream believes it, and they say it's normal because capitalism did this, because Trump deregulated the railroads. But my point of it is, East Palestine, Ohio is considered to be, well, their slogan is the heart of it all. So you think the heart of a nation, Ohio, toxic airborne event, mushroom cloud. Israel, similarly, could be described as the heart of a nation. Then you have the Palestine. So I'm kind of thinking maybe that was foreshadowing for what's going to happen over there. And it could happen during a Super Bowl. I mean, I think it'd be perfect timing. And also this, the largest call up since the end of the Cold War ended 33 years ago, yeah. It's called Steadfast Defender. So Steadfast Defender begins next week, and it runs until May. It's 32 nations involved in a drill. U.S. General Christopher Cavoli, who's NATO's Supreme Allied Commander Europe, said, "The alliance will demonstrate the ability to reinforce the Euro-Atlantic area by a transatlantic movement of forces in North America." So we're looking at also Defense Secretary Grant Shapps announcing the deployment of all the Army, Navy, and RAF on Monday. The Royal Navy will send 2 new aircraft carriers and 8 warships. Nothing to see here, just a drill involving 31 NATO nations plus Sweden. Metro says, "Are we headed for World War III? NATO makes biggest move in 33 years." Constant Elevation says Taylor Swift's birthday is December 13th. Born under Ophiuchus? How do you pronounce that? Oh, that's that 13th zodiac sign, the snake. Okay. Well, look, she even said that she is consistently seeing the 13 with any event that she goes to. She sits in row 13. She even said it's either row M or row 13. She writes 13 on her hand.
Ophiuchus,
the snake. All right, well, that's another connection, and that's why I'm saying this is news-bent reality. This is scripted. This isn't like random occurrences, and some people, I understand it, but they're still stuck in this idea that it's real until proven fake. And so the only way to account for all of these anomalies is to posit the existence of some kind of God, a divine fallacy is inserted. Like, oh, this is caused by collective manifestation, or these are synchronicities, or the AI God is manufacturing events and truthers are picking it up. And, honestly, that doesn't work as an explanation. It's not as good an explanation as they write the news in advance, just like a movie, just like a reality TV show, and they're playing it out on the world stage as best they can. And these birth dates are also very significant when you look at world stage characters, and it's part of the astrology. I mean, we were recently talking about last month, it was, I think, the 21st birthday of Kyle Rittenhouse and Greta Thunberg. Like 2 equally annoying representatives of the respective fringes, poster children for their policy platforms taken to their extremes. Greta shut down capitalism and Kyle shooting the looters. And you know what? They have the same birthday, 1/3/2003, which makes me think that they were hatched at the same time. Their story begins at the same time. They have the same life trajectories. And it's not because astrology. No, it's because of the script that they were born into. Okay, continuing. We talked about Donald Trump posting an image of himself mashed up with Elvis last night. which is a further indication that JL26, Drastic Liars, is onto something. He picked up on a thread years ago. Trump, Elvis, way before Trump was even elected, and this Antichrist story, way before Trump as Antichrist was mainstream enough for Donnie Darkened to go on Tim Pool. Like, that's how far in advance that people have been picking up on these threads. And now Donald Trump tweeting an image of himself with Elvis, saying, for so many years, people have been saying that Elvis and I look alike. Now this pic, what do you think? Like, really, people have been saying this. And, funnily, this was on the front of the Drudge Report. And they said, weirdest election ever. It's like, what do you mean weird? We're kind of jaded, I guess. Like, we're kind of used to it. Like Elvis or John Candy. These are both candidates for who's Trump. Or now it's JFK as well. Like, things are way weirder than Drudge can ever know. Christian McCaffrey's mom says, Taylor Swift is dead to us ahead of the Super Bowl. Like, who talks like this? She's like Princess Di. She's like Amelia Earhart. She's dead to us. Austin 108 says, in my opinion, reality is creating all the synchronicities and it's all supernatural. Well, Occam's razor would say the most likely explanation is the one that requires the fewest leaps of logic or the fewest number of extenuating circumstances or unlikelihoods. For example, what's more likely? That they're writing the news and bending it with propaganda and waging psywar on the public, or that this is all just synchronicity and magic and it's perfectly aligning. Well, the divine fallacy is the one where if I can't explain it, I'm going to posit the supernatural. And for more than probably 15 or 20 years, people have been saying, when you see predictive programming, it's because the wizards controlling media have to tell us what they're going to do to us so that they don't get karmic retribution. Now, that to me is completely nonsensical. Like, you cannot predict anything based on that. You cannot really even substantiate that claim. Like, find me the dark occultist, InfoWars. Find me the occultists who are trying to dodge karmic retribution. Like, it doesn't even make sense. I'm sorry. But that's the explanation. They call it revelation of the method. That's a cliche that goes around. It means nothing. The fact of it is, they're using predictive programming because they write our history in advance, and they're putting things into our frame of reference, opening Overton's window. They are, in a way, boring the neural pathways in your mind to accept the fake news as inevitable, without question. You don't have to insert the supernatural. And one of the things I want to do is I want to break away from any sort of MSM plus explanation. So instead of saying they're faking the news, defaulting to it's magic, that's deeper into the matrix. The real skeptic's approach is to not be fooled by the Wizard of Oz. The wizards, the magic show. For example, when you're at a magic show, you may not be able to debunk it from your seat. It's designed that way. It's a perfectly constructed illusion designed to fool you as a human being. The way that you perceive things, your vision, your hearing, it's designed to fool you. But it only works if you look where the magician tells you to look. And if you sit where he tells you to sit. It only works from that perspective. If you got up on stage and you had a clearer view, it wouldn't trick you. So if you're reaching for an explanation that it's supernatural, it means you're sitting in your chair. And I can't figure out the magic trick, therefore it's magic. No, you need to get out of your chair and get more information before you can arrive at a conclusion like that. "737 says Elvis sucks. Salty Siren says I'm all shook up. MAGA, earthquake, labor pains, volcano. Magma equals new birth. Harmon Walker says, I feel something tragic will happen on the flight from Japan to Vegas. Yeah, it's a 13-hour flight. And Japan connects to the Amelia Earhart story. And of course, she was recently revealed to be related to Amelia Earhart. They found her plane. She's on the cover of Time, looking like Amelia Earhart. Earhart has been compared to Taylor Swift by CNN. So CNN made that connection. It's not us. Swift has made the Princess Diana connection. These connections are there. Thank you. We at the IPS appreciate the support. Thirst for Truth, keeping gas in the think tank. And if this thing with Google pans out, the think tank is going to be mobilized in a very big way. And again, that's happening in May. Vindication, but whether or not it's fast or slow, it doesn't really matter. They could take They could take 6 months to a year for this thing to fully pan out. But my point of it is, we have continued to operate despite politically connected and wealthy adversaries who we've managed to dox, humiliate, and nullify. Shout out to MG. And I haven't been keeping up with him lately. Well, actually, I kind of do spy on their Twitter accounts and feeds. But there's going to be some news very soon, I think, with the Hunter Biden lawsuit that might reveal our channel enemy to a wider audience. Elephant Tusk says, weird she's being rushed to the Super Bowl from Japan. Right, and why do we all know this? Like, why are all the pieces to this puzzle being... Like, look, I've never paid attention to Taylor Swift. And now all of a sudden, we have more info than the Taylor Swift fan club. We're talking about it with all of our friends for hours on end, and more info is dropping. So look, this is stuff that they're putting on our laps. It's being thrown out there again. They throw it out onto the collective psyche. 13, goddess, 13, 13, all these numbers, the themes. So they're speaking to us on multiple levels. And I don't think she's disconnected from Barbie as far as the archetypes go. And if you look at it, Barbie is the enemy of the right wing. Barbie feminism goes against MAGA. You don't get more anti-MAGA than Barbie feminist. MAGA is lower the age of consent, lock them down in the kitchen, ban abortion, and have a bunch of babies. And don't vote. Elijah Schaffer and Nick Fuentes. And how many others say don't vote? Like, don't let them read. But then you have Barbie, the movie, where she's encouraging the girls to take their little baby dolls by the ankles and dash their heads against the rocks and move to Barbie Land, where the men are superfluous. They have nubs. That's Barbie feminism. The elimination of toxic masculinity, the kenification of the American male, and women going out and doing their own thing without the need for the superfluous male. That's the opposite of MAGA. So Barbie's already an enemy. Taylor Swift has just made herself an enemy. That's part of the bigger story that's emerging here. And then her death in the movie, being pushed under the car. There's a few things here, all of it connected to the number 13. Thank you, Skyfish. We appreciate the support. Elephant Tusk says, did you hear that the powers that be are trying to convince Swift not to attend? Now, I've thought about this. What if we're so spot on calling out the nuance of the incoming Psyop that we're going to be looked at as prescient? Are they going to cancel it? Are they going to alter it? And I've often considered this. Could we do like real-time damage to the, quote, meta script as it's being unfolded? And having thought about this, my answer is no. We cannot affect it. Because they know that they carve their version of reality in stone, and eventually our versions will be deleted. They have full confidence that this is the case. So here's from the hashtag Taylor Swift Psyop. There's quite a lot of people posting in it. Here's one. Fellas, will you be rolling up to a Taylor Swift Super Bowl party? So here you have women building this red sequins background little setup where they're going to party for the Super Bowl and celebrate Taylor Swift. So this is interesting too. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, the wedding, the proposal thing, the love story. I'm not sure where it's all going, but it's certainly dragging people into it at a deeply emotional level. I mean, this is a psyop. You can't say the Taylor Swift thing is not a psyop. Here's Taylor Swift standing on the black cube of Saturn waving devil horns, wearing a costume that covers her right side. Washington Post had to admit that Joe Biden received briefings on Taylor Swift in the White House. So this was posted yesterday. Educating the president has fallen to his diehard Swiftie fans. On a day that music manager Scooter Braun visited the White House, former Biden's communications director found herself briefing the president about Swift's bad blood with Braun over control of her master recordings. Biden's team prepped the president in the Oval Office for the upcoming meeting. Okay, again, more of this Taylor Swift psyop. Frankie Baby, this is a podcast, says, the right has become obsessed with Tay-Tay. Is it true that the old Taylor can't come to the phone right now because she's taking a call from Henry Kissinger? Now, again, we know it's not a psyop because the DOD said it's not a psyop. Many people are showing her in the snake outfit doing witchcraft on stage. Okay, enough about this for now. I think we've covered a lot of the stuff. It's pretty apparent something's going on, and we'll continue to follow this thread as it goes from over the next few days as it evolves. All right, moving on here. The MAGA thing is totally contrived and fake, by the way. Why would anybody care? Again, I didn't know who she was. She wasn't in my frame of reference whatsoever. And now center stage. How does that happen? And look, again, this isn't cherry picking. You can't say that we are reading too much into it because they're reading it to us. For example, here she is shouting out her numbers.
This is my 13th Grammy, which is my lucky number. I don't know if I've ever...
So she says, this is my 13th Grammy, my lucky number, and she's wearing the doomsday clock around her neck. Shadow of Erza says, the number 13 holds significant symbolism in Illuminati numerology. Some theorists claim it represents rebellion against established authority. It certainly means a lot of things. I think it's connected here to the lunar goddess template. Blood is currently pouring out of the walls as Olivia Rodrigo is rubbing blood on her face, singing about getting bitten by a vampire. Being covered in red, the blood at the 66 Grammys. Again, the timing of this is interesting because last year at this time it was all about the red dresses. The lady who sang the Black National Anthem, red dress. Doja Cat, red dress. Rihanna at the thing, red dress. Oprah, big red dress. Sam Smith in his devil costume and the singer with him, red, all in red. And this again was leading up to the Barbie. And of course the Barbie Whore of Babylon thing. It's like the Scarlet Woman, the Whore of Babylon. It's always being this time of year, I guess. Maybe it's an annual thing. We have to look back because there are just patterns here. And if you don't have a record, you might not notice the patterns, and pattern recognition is actually probably considered to be a form of hate speech. A Texas migrant facility evacuated after threats from trucker convoy. Border Patrol, Center for Migrants in Eagle Pass, Texas, evacuated after threats made to burn it down by people who joined right-wing Take Back Our Border convoy to protest the Biden admin's policies. And again, we had this thing with the head chopper doing so over the border. And this is all happening at the same time that there's a bill being passed to limit or control the establishment of militias. And this thing going down to the border, in a way, it's kind of an ad hoc militia thing. But it's interesting that they're, like with the Patriot Act, for example, that you have these preparations in advance to honeypot any of these provoked movements. For example, John Moan video sparks anti-militia bill conspiracy theories. Again, the video where he displays a severed head. Yeah, is that a conspiracy theory? Or is it just coincidental timing? But there is something there. All right. This is from David Icke. I brought this up yesterday because David Icke has been at war with the other alt media types. He says Jones, Carlson, Tate, Shapiro, Rogan, the rest of them are worshiping Musk And then he goes on about Musk. He says here, he makes the same WEF case for a carbon tax that Gates and Schwab have been demanding. His companies advance the cult for a global dystopia. SpaceX, Neuralink, Tesla, the tunnel building boring company. But you can still lick his arse and call him the biggest maverick in the last 500 years because he promotes you on Twitter X while shadow banning those with the intelligence to call him out for what he's doing. Wherever you look, you see support for universal basic income, the AI takeover, and behind his fake concern, he's pushing everything WEF. Again, this is David Icke unloading on Elon Musk. Carbon tax, check. UBI, check. Injections, check. Transhumanism, check. One world government, check. But the one thing David Icke won't call him out on is faking space. Look, David Icke, maybe he has to gatekeep it, but maybe he just doesn't want to touch the flat earth, and I understand it. Who would want to be associated with that clown show for the most part? However, if he does believe that we're in a simulation, then why wouldn't the powers that be give us a wrong interpretation of how the simulation looks for the purposes of controlling the people in the simulation so they don't exert any creative control over it, which is presently monopolized by the MSM. They do monopolize worldview formation. That's their main point, I think. But again, why is David Icke unable to call out Musk on faking space? That would be impactful. Like, someone ought to tweet him, David Icke, call out Musk on faking space. Just let go of the fake moon landing. Stop carrying water for NASA. They're not doing you any favors. Salty Siren is still banned on Twitter. You know what? On Twitter, they banned me from spaces. I can't do Twitter spaces. Maybe it's because I don't believe in space. But I literally cannot live stream or do spaces, nor will I ever get monetized. Like, how is that? I've been paying Elon Musk $11 a month so I can send longer than 144 character tweets and archive my videos there, which is a good service. But I don't get any of the perks. I can't even, I hit the tweet button, and on my phone, you're supposed to be able to enter spaces. And for me, it automatically closes it as I open it. Okay, what's really going on with the Kansas City Chiefs fans found dead? Still kind of an open mystery. We've been talking about this Donald Christ, Taylor Swift, Vegas Death Star, Super Bowl whiteout, border insecurity, psyops, alien worship versus xenophobia. Right now, there's actually baptisms going on at the border. Yeah, it makes sense. They can't find any immigrants to shoot. They can't find an invasion, so they are immersing themselves and joining at a deeper level. Although I listened to the baptism, and here's one here. It just weirdly to me, I'm like, why are they praying to Jesus? I thought it was Trump or JFK.
Why in her own homeland? She has been abused. She has been burned.
There you have it, baptism. What does this have to do with anything? What does this have to do with anything? I don't know. I guess it's to distract them. They're not just going to be happy with the new Trump t-shirt. Got to give them an experience. Taylor Swift has generated $330 million for the NFL. There's quite a few breakdowns here. For example, she released a song called Gold Rush 33 months before she started dating this guy. Gold Rush references, let's see here, the California genocide. This is fascinating. I'll probably have to dig deeper into this. There's a number of other things involving numbers and release dates, but I've been getting a lot of stuff sent to me. Let's see if we've got anything else going on. All right, this has been great. Look, I have to go back to the routine, but we're trying to start a morning program. I'm trying to move away from spending so much time doing art, and I want to get into these morning live streams, and specifically I want to get back into doing Discord. So if you like the group chats we used to do, I think that was a very important feature. It allowed us to bring in a lot more information, and then of course all that we bring to the live streams. So I'd like to get back into that. Human Vibration on Twitter said, "We've been having the same conversation at the Real Eyes Radio Discord. All the attention on her Super Bowl flight route and the general chatter of flying and faulty aircraft parts feels like a perfect setup for an air-related disaster to unfold." Okay. Interesting. There's an anniversary date, Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, Big Bopper, J.P. Richardson, and Pilot. That was February 1959. Her song did dethrone American Pie, the infamous song about the tragedy, in 2022. Okay, so there's something here. Taylor Swift dethroned the 50-year reign of American Pie as the longest song on #1, the Billboard chart, with her Taylor's version of All Too Well, which is a 10-minute long song. So she deposed that song, which is about a tragedy. Synchromorpheus remarks, "So much here. She recently evoked Amelia Earhart on the Time cover, whose plane wreckage was reportedly found last week. Turns out Tay is literally Earhart's 9th cousin." So there's that. So look, you can see where we're arriving at. So for the person, I think it was Blind Skeptic, who said, "You guys are reading too much into this." I saw that comment. It's like, well, I don't know. I don't think we are. I think others are not reading enough into it, or they're taking it literally. And that's one thing I'm not doing. I'm not saying they're going to get rid of her. I'm saying they're going to take her off the world stage, and she's probably going to, I don't know. She'll show back up for a Napoleon Dynamite sequel. But regardless, they're not setting us up for something real. They always ever only set us up for something fake. I don't see any reason to expect them to deviate from that. All right, thanks again, everyone, hanging out. This is Chief Crow and the Flat Earth Worms, COVID 1984. We'll be live likely earlier tomorrow. Sign up at ips.monster for the archives.
Or deceit. Shut up, shut the door. Government media bent you over like a whore. COVID 1984, COVID 1984, COVID 1984, COVID 1984. 33 puzzle, face mask muzzle. Going to my grandma's house. Shut in, shut up, cover your mouth.